Good evening and welcome to our Year 8 Parents Information Evening. I want to start by thanking you all for giving up your evening to listen to our announcements and keep connected with the work that we're doing with Year 8 this year. It is an incredibly important year for our students as they'll be looking at their GCSE options in the next half of the academic year, which, as you can imagine, can be quite overwhelming but also quite exciting for them. So it is incredibly important that you are being connected with everything that is going on to support with that process in school. First of all, I just want to say that as a year group, as a collective, we have had a fantastic start to the year. Students are thinking hard in lessons, they are making good choices during social times, and they are doing everything that we could possibly want them to do during their time here at St Paul's. We've really developed a strong community, particularly with our tutor groups and also the wider year group, and this is something that we worked a lot on last year, and I think the results for that are starting to show this year. Students are showing consideration towards each other, they're being courteous, and they are encouraging each other to seek support when they need that, whatever it might be. We've had a big push on uniform this year, and I'm delighted to say that Year 8's uniform is absolutely fantastic. They're meeting all of the expectations, and I'm really proud of them for taking that all in their stride and ensuring that they have everything possible ready for each school day, and ensuring that their uniform is exactly how we'd expect them to be wearing it, and that is with pride. Independent learning is something that I know some students have been finding difficult this year because obviously there was a bit more of a transition period for Year 7. But I'd like to also just say that they are trying to complete all of those challenge tasks and getting the work done to the best of their ability. Should your child be finding their independent learning difficult, we've recently employed post-16 students to support with the homework in the library after school every single day. So if they're finding something particularly challenging or they're just not finding it easy to focus at home on their homework, please encourage them to stay behind after school and make the most use of those older students who are focusing on developing their leadership skills, but also being role models to the younger students and there to guide them and help them, particularly when some different softwares can be quite challenging. They've obviously had a lot more experience in using things like It's Learning, so therefore please do encourage your child to go to that. We will be doing all of our Advent fundraising, something that the students are really keen to do. Last year we raised £1,500 as a year group, which is absolutely incredible, and I'm so proud and grateful for all of the support that every student and of course parents and carers at home have done to support with that. It really has made a big difference. We're looking at exciting ways to encourage students to participate in this, so of course if you have any ideas, please do get in touch. And finally, we're continuing to work on our leadership skills as a year group this year. I've recently sent out the applications for our 2023-2024 student leaders. Please do speak to your child about this and encourage them to take those opportunities. It might be that they don't want to be a student leader, but they want to look at other things that they can do to develop their leadership skills, and that might be helping with the Year 7 transition, doing some more work in primary schools, leading on charity events within their tutor group. Please encourage them to take that step and support them with speaking up and speaking to one of us so that we can help them develop those skills. I hope that your child has settled. I mean, from all of the conversations that we've had and walking around classrooms and going into lessons, we can see that they are all working exceptionally hard. But of course, if you do have any questions or concerns, please do get in touch. Mrs. Thomas and I will have our emails on the last slide. Thank you.
Hello, I am Miss White and I am the Curriculum Lead for PSHE and RSE at St Paul's. PSHE stands for Personal, Social, Health and Economic Education, and RSE stands for Relationships and Sex Education. We follow all the statutory requirements that were put in place in September 2020 when we're delivering our PSHE, but we do make sure we deliver it through a Catholic lens, focusing on the gospel values of love and forgiveness. We want to make sure that during PSHE students are given the knowledge, the skills and the attributes they need to make safe decisions when they are faced with them in the life outside of school. So we keep everything very scenario based when we're teaching it, to make sure that students just understand what they could do and what they should do if they're faced with those situations in the future. The form tutor is the person who we think is best placed to deliver PSHE, and they do so in a 40-minute lesson on a Friday morning in extended tutor time. So the form tutor is the person that's built that relationship with the students through seeing them every single day, and they know the ins and outs of their needs, and also will be able to identify any concerns that might be raised during the PSHE content. So this means that the students and the teacher both feel very comfortable with the discussions they're having, and it creates a better forum for sharing opinions during the lesson. Everything that is delivered though is centrally planned by myself, which means that we get a consistent message across the whole of the year group, and then tutors receive bespoke PSHE training to make sure they feel confident and comfortable when they are delivering the PSHE content. So this is our PSHE and RSE curriculum that we deliver for Year 8. They've just finished their programme on mental health, which is really, really important because it gives them those skills that they need to identify when their mental health might be suffering, especially in the run-up to choosing their GCSE options, and then also beginning their GCSE journey in Year 9. We understand that they may be feeling like their mental health has a little wobble, so it's good that they get those skills they need to verbalise how they're feeling and understand that when to seek help with their emotions. We then move on to our finance topic, which is our start of our finance unit. So we teach on a spiral curriculum, which means that they begin with the groundwork in Year 8 on finance, and they develop on that through Year 8 and 9. So we start off with very broad topics about things that influence their financial decisions and how they can make good decisions with the money that they have. And then we develop on that through Year 9 and 10. Lent term is our RSE term, so we run RSE across the whole school during our Lent term. This means that students and teachers have had that chance to build that comfortable relationship before we get into the more heavy stuff that they might be covering. So we focus more on the relationship side with the Year 8 curriculum, looking at consent and healthy relationships. This just means that students have the skills they need to identify when they might be in an unsafe situation, and have the skills and the knowledge that they need to know how to deal with that situation. In our final term of Year 8, we looking at identity and self, which is where we look at role models and British values and how they shape our own identities, and then looking how the media governs our body image and how that makes us feel about ourselves, and then looking at gender and sexuality as well at the end of that. We then follow that with a session on prejudice and discrimination, looking at stereotyping, the difference between free speech and discrimination, and then some different types of discrimination that can happen. At the end of every PSHE lesson, students complete a reflection booklet and a self-assessed quiz. That just means that we're tracking their progress and monitoring how they're doing and checking their understanding, so that we can be sure that they know how to make those safe decisions. And also it allows us to monitor any safeguarding concerns, as tutors check the booklets every week and just make sure there's nothing that is raising any concerns when they're delivering that. Thank you so much for listening to our section about PSHE. Please do get in touch with me if you have any questions about the curriculum or the delivery of PSHE, and I will be more than happy to help answer your questions. Thank you.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the sleep section of this information evening. My name's Bria Dowkin and I am the Student Wellness Lead here at St Paul's, and just for a brief time I'd like to cover a few aspects on the importance of sleep within your teenagers. So the teenage years are a formative period where the brain experiences lots of development. You've probably noticed so many changes in your teenagers already. There are going to be more. Sleep is an essential part of this journey, and it is a really essential part of their brain development. Actually, the brain doesn't fully develop or stop developing until it's 26 in males and 24 in female. So your child, when they're 24, 25, if they're male, they've still got what we class as a teenage brain. Now, sleep is an essential part of this, as I've just said, and research unfortunately indicates that lots of teenagers get far less sleep than is actually needed. So let's just talk about the perception of sleep first of all, and what people think that it is for. Lots of people think it is mainly for rest and relaxation, re-energizing and recharging your batteries. Now, there is lots and lots of now information out there, lots of research. One of the leading experts on sleep is a gentleman called Matthew Walker. And if you fancy any extra reading and picking up a book, Why We Sleep is very informative. There is a lot of information. I'm only covering a very small section of why sleep is so beneficial today. This book, if you want to read it in the evening, I can guarantee will send you to sleep. And in the opening chapters, he actually talks about he won't be offended if this book does send you to sleep. Another really great recommended read is a book by Nicola Morgan, The Awesome Power of Sleep. This one is far more easily digestible, and she is a leading expert on the actual teenage brain. Later on in the year, you will be invited to a teenage brain session delivered by one of our teen brain experts, Martin Lee. He's going to come in and deliver some sessions. So when you see that parent mouth, if you want to sign up and find out more about the teenage brain in general and not just about sleep, please do come along to that particular lecture. Now, they both say, and everybody that is into sleep, there isn't a part of our biological functions as human being that doesn't benefit a good night's sleep. Sleep affects everything within our bodies. Now, one famous quote, "Sleep is for wimps," was said by Margaret Thatcher. She famously lived on, barely, 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. And actually lots of people, when they boast lack of sleep or that they can work on lack of sleep, it's somehow praiseworthy that this is the case, when actually we know through research that this isn't true. She and Ronald Reagan, who was the same, only 4 to 5 hours sleep a night, both developed Alzheimer's in their later years, and lots of scientists believe that this is one of the leading causes, because our brains need sleep for so many different reasons. So it's making sure that as your teenagers, as their adolescent brains go through this stage, that they get the right amount of sleep, so their brain themselves, everything can be processed properly and they get the most benefits from sleep. So one thing that might prevent a teenager from going to sleep, of course, is the use of a device. The average time of a teenager on a device is between 9 hours. It's about 9 hours. That's an average. Obviously, you've got more and you've got less, but most of them are at school 8 hours, 5 days a week. So where does this time come from? And when we're on our devices quite a lot and we're looking at lit screens, it knocks out our body clock a little bit. Now, our brain has lots and lots of different cells in it. One of the things it regulates is hormones, and that's what the brain produces. And the hormones tell our bodies to do different things. One of the important hormones for sleep is called melatonin. Now, everybody has melatonin released in their body. In adults, it is released a lot earlier than in teenagers. Now, as you can see down the bottom there, teenagers need between 9 and 10 hours sleep a night, whereas in adults it might be 7 to 8. Hopefully by now, every adult knows roughly how much sleep they need to get to be able to function properly. I know I need way more. But teenagers need 9 to 10 hours. But the melatonin that is released in a teenager, where in adults, it might be released at say 9, 10 o'clock at night, and that's when we start to feel sleepy. In an adolescent body, it is unfortunately released a lot later. So it might not be released till 11, 12 at night. And that's why another reason why your teenager might find it quite difficult to go to sleep. Now, if they're on the devices until say, 11, it then might take their body an hour to wind down and then not getting to sleep till 12. This gets pushed back if they can get off their device until 12 o'clock at night. You might then think, right, they're not going to sleep until 1 or 2 in the morning. And that's where that sleep deficit comes in. So one of the things the NHS recommends to help with this and to try and prevent a sleep deficit. So a sleep deficit is where you have not enough hours sleep in the week, and then by the time you get to the weekend and you've got that opportunity to sleep and you're not getting up to go to school, teenagers might sleep in late, and the stereotype is that they are lazy, but actually what they're trying to do is recall back all the sleep that they might not have quite had during the week. Okay, so some things to help. Avoid excitement, computer games. I'm sure every teenager is going to love me saying that. Arguments, quite hard with siblings. Anything too difficult, so doing any difficult homework just before they go to bed might not be the most beneficial thing in the world. So it might be that homework needs to get pushed back into the evening, so it's not that hour before they go to bed. Anything really bright or any really thrilling and exciting TV programs, basically anything that's going to get us excited. Focus on relaxing, listening to some light music. You might decide to potter around your room, even tidy it. I'm sure every teenager will tell me no for that one. Any kind of gentle exercise, nothing that raises the heart rate, but just some light stretching or some gentle yoga, or just like walking around the house just to calm your breathing down and slow your body down. I know we can't all afford this at the minute. However, having a warm bath, I'm not sure you want your teenagers filling up the tub every night, but having that idea of a warm bath, the steam, maybe adding some lavender, that can really help us fall asleep and go into that sleep routine. Sticking to the same bedtime routine, and once you've found one that fits you and your family, your brain then starts to associate that with going to sleep. So it might be part of the bedtime routine is, right, I'm off a device an hour before I go to bed. And that doesn't go in the bedroom, it stays downstairs, which I know is a challenge. I've brushed my teeth, I've brushed my hair, I've put on some hand cream, and I've got into bed in my nice pajamas. The brain will slowly start to recognise that is when I'm going to bed, and that is when that hormone melatonin might start to release a little bit earlier. When in bed as well, you might do a bit of reading. I know there have been many a times where I've been reading a book and it's fallen on my face, or listening to some quiet music, dimming those lights a little bit. So maybe getting a really soft lamp in the room, or having a dimmer switch might help, so we can avoid those bright lights. Not going online and making sure that your phone's in another room. I know this is really hard with the teenager, but the NHS recommend that keeping devices out of the bedroom past a certain time. That might be something that you could negotiate or try, because if your teenager's finding it really difficult to get to sleep, that might be something that could be trialled in your house, possibly. They also recommend not trying to go to sleep or trying to get to sleep for more than 15 to 20 minutes. Otherwise, you start tossing and turning, you start stressing that you're not going to sleep. And then you think, oh, I'm going to have to get up in a couple of hours. It might be worth getting out your book and starting to read, or pottering around your room, or wandering around the house, or having some warm milk just to bring your body back down again, and then trying to go to sleep again. However, I know I've mentioned this whole sleep deficit, and these are all things that you could try, but don't panic that if you get one bad night's sleep, or you've got 2 or 3 nights sleep where actually you're not quite getting enough. It's not the end of the world, and your brain allows you to catch up. Your teenage brain allows you to catch up. But if you're putting this bedtime routine in place, it's going to help start to create that idea of going to sleep and making going to bed a lot easier. So I mentioned Nicola Morgan earlier on, and she said, don't blame my teenage brain. And there is a quiz to see how sleepy you are. So we're going to have a go at this. It's used by doctors to just determine whether you're getting enough sleep or not. So this is something that you can do. So it's done on a scoring system. So 0 is no chance of falling asleep, 1 is a slight chance, 2 is a moderate chance, and 3 is a high chance. And at the end, your score will determine whether you're actually getting enough sleep or not, and whether it's severe or not. So, question number 1. Would you fall asleep sitting and reading? So 0 chance, slight chance, moderate chance, or high chance. Watching the television. Would you fall asleep watching the TV? 0 chance, slight chance, moderate chance. Actually, yes, definitely severe chance, yes. Sitting in a public place like a cinema. 0 chance, slight chance, moderate chance, high chance. So this might happen if you go to the cinema. Are you going to fall asleep? As a passenger in a car for an hour without a break. So is that 0 chance? Is that a slight chance, a moderate chance, or a high chance? If you were to lie down and rest in the afternoon, would you fall asleep? So 0 chance, slight chance, moderate chance, or high chance. Sitting and talking to somebody, 0 chance, slight chance, moderate chance or a high chance. Sitting quietly after lunch, like if you've had a big lunch and you're in a lesson, or you're reading, would you fall asleep? And finally, in a car, if you've stopped for a few minutes in traffic, so 0 chance, a slight chance, a moderate chance or a high chance, would you fall asleep? And here are the scores. So up to 9 is the average amount of sleepiness, 10 to 13, if that was your score, is a mild amount, 14 to 19 is a moderate amount, and 20 to 24 is a severe amount. For anything more than the average, okay, of amount of sleepiness, so we're looking at sort of anything more than a mild sort of type sleepiness, you should consider perhaps that you're not getting enough sleep, and try some of those sleep hygiene strategies to try and help with the sleepiness. If we're in that high area, that is the time possibly where you might want to have a chat to your doctor, but do have a go at some of those sleep hygiene protocols that I mentioned earlier. Okay, so something else that's really important is learning why we sleep, and can we learn why we sleep? And obviously we're all very interested in whether our teenager can retain information and build that long-term memory, especially for exam success. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if we could play a recording or sleep with a book on our face and all that knowledge why we sleep just enters the brain? Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? There's the dream right there. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. We can't learn new information when we sleep. That doesn't happen. However, our brains are still amazing, and they do help us process information into long-term memory. So make sure you're storing things in that all-important long-term memory. Sleep is the way you transfer that information. Cramming is never going to do it. Sleep will help you. So research has shown that when you try really hard to remember something during the day, so let's say we're in a maths lesson, a science lesson, a technology lesson, whatever it might be, and you're trying really hard to work out problems and solve information, you might then have a piece of homework that evening that makes your brain work hard, that you think about it. So it's not just copying and pasting from Wikipedia, but actually you're thinking about your learning and thinking about the information. Your brain will practice it for you while you are asleep, and it will consolidate it and it will put it into your long-term memory. And teenagers that get the right amount of sleep are able to recall information much more easily than those that have very, very little sleep. So when your child does get to year 11 and they're staying up till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, trying to cram for a test, actually the best thing they can do is go to sleep. And actually what they've learnt during the day is let it sink into their brain and let their brain do the practicing for them. Plus they're more likely to actually finish the exam without falling asleep. This is one of the best revision tools you can have. It is also really, really important for mental wellness. Not only does your brain help you consolidate ideas into long-term memory, it also helps you process everything that has happened during the day, the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything. And it helps us deal with feelings and emotions. And our brains do that, and they practice that and regulate that through the REM sleep cycle. So actually the next day they might be able to deal with the situation a little bit better. And that's one of the ways we also build resilience in students as well. Having a great night's sleep really helps you deal with the world in a much better, calmer way. Finally, I know I've only covered a few aspects of sleep in this particular presentation. I just wanted to show you a couple of books. So Nicola Morgan, the wondrous woman that she is, has written lots of books on the teenage brain. So that one I mentioned earlier about the awesome power of sleep is there. That's a really, really great one, but she's also written lots of other books. The Blame My Brain, The Amazing Teenage Brain is also an amazing one. That's got a chapter on sleep in it. And then there's lots of things to do with stress, building resilience, how to be positive as a teenager. Now, all of these books are in our library. So if your teenager has got space on their card to get out a book or two, please, do get them out and you can have a quick read. And it's really good. There might be things that you can read together and it might give you a better understanding of sleep, not just for your teenager, but for yourself. Thank you very much for listening. Again, my name is Bria Jalkin. I am the Student Wellness Lead here at St Paul's. There is also on your child's student wellness platform It's Learning platform, there is a student wellness page, and I post things on there all the time, not just about sleep, but about lots of ideas to do with mental health. Thank you very much for listening.